Welcome back to SciTech Intermountain Siteworks training videos. This video I'm going to show you how to measure this depression in the ground, this cutout with the dozer to find out how much material was cut out of here. So what we're going to do right off the bat with our data collector here is we're going to go into the menu and we're going to start a brand new work order for this project. So we're going to leave the project SciTech Intermountain Southwest corner. We're going to hit plus. We're going to call this we'll call it a soft spot depression. Now, on the next screen, you do not have to run the design in the background at the same time. You can just have this as no design needed, and then you don't have to have the cut fill or anything from the design. We're just kind of making our own measurements here. We'll go ahead and hit accept. I've already connected to my rover. I've got my tilt compensator on. We'll zoom in about where we're at. What we want to do is we want to go into what I call the roller stuck in the mud. It's the icon right under where the guy is standing. It's the measure type. We're going to go over to new line, and then in here, it really doesn't matter as much what you name it when you first name it, because in the long run, it's just going to run the report based on whatever is inside of the volume boundary. But I like to call the base of the stockpile a base, or if I'm doing a hole like this, a depression, to call it the base also, just so I know it's the outer line. We're going to drop this drop down bar, and we're going to do this as a volume boundary for the actual outside of this. We'll hit accept. Now we're good to go. Now it's a matter of just walking around and shooting all the highs and lows and actually capturing the outermost point of what I want to get the volume from. Remember, as you do this, it's going to gather the highs and lows if you're going to run it just as a depression. There's a couple different ways to do the stockpile measurements in the report. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. Once again, just creating an outermost point. I'm going to run right along this ridge right here. And once I get to almost the last shot, or the last point right before where I ended, I don't have to actually start back where I started. I can auto close on the left side right here with the box that has 3 solid lines and then one side that's dotted. If you didn't auto close that line on the main screen, it's not a big deal. We can do it later on from running the report. Now that I've got that area, what I'm going to do is go back into that measure type, and I'm going to just call this the internal. Once again, it doesn't matter in the long run, it's just so I can keep things separate. There's a couple different ways to shoot in the middle. You can shoot surface points, just a single points, or you can do break lines. Just don't do line string in the middle, because when you do a line string, it's a string with northing eastings, but it can't get a surface off of it. A break line is the same thing. It's a line with northing eastings and elevations, but it actually creates those little blue and black circles and makes it to where it can run a report off of it. So we'll do a break line. What I'm going to do, though, is now that I've got a slope right here, I want to make sure that it volume boundaries from the top line. Just envision digital string lines. And then I'm going to run one right down along the bottom here, because it's just going to make a straight line between the two shots. And also, make sure that you do not cross outside of the outer boundary. Stay inside of it, and don't cross your own line in here. If you have to start and stop multiple lines, not a big deal. At this point, since it's pretty well straight across, what I'm going to do is just jump over to the middle here. Take a couple shots down through the middle. It probably doesn't matter as much, because it would have went from that line to that line and made a flat floor. But just to make sure, I've always said that if you're not going to fly it with a drone, because a drone's going to get millions of shots and points in a point cloud, the more and more shots you take with the data collector, the better. The better number is going to come out. Make sure you get the very low point, and then any break line points through here. And that's it. As soon as that break line is done in there, you can go into measure type. Let me show you one more thing. I don't need to make any single points in here, but just in case you do, you can go to that point tab on the top there, do the same thing. Just go ahead and name it whatever you want. I just call it internal, but right here for point type, I'm going to leave that as a surface, not as a feature. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this to no, so it doesn't ask me every time. And I am going to shoot just a couple surface points in here, just to show you that it will run off of that also. And there we go. Now that that is done, All we need to do to run that report is to go into the menu button here, go down to COGO, which is short for coordinate geometry. And as soon as you touch on review and edit data, it actually ironically defaults to the first box that you need right there. If you're ever curious what's in here, there's a little question mark at the top right. If you hit that, it'll tell you what all these are. Or you can simply just touch on each box. But the one you want here is the compute volume. All it wants you to do is select the outer boundary. Now, make sure you don't touch and hold on it or free click. I've done that before. Just touch the outer boundary. And over here on the side, you've got stockpile or measure to an elevation. I'm going to do the stockpile option just because it's going to make a surface out of the very top of all my shots. I'm not putting a scale factor in. There's no compaction or expansion right here or shrinkage. It's pretty well a hard, solid number. All I got to do is hit accept, and boom, it runs a report for me. So if you look at it, the expansion factor was 0. Total cut, there is no cut because I never went above that outer top rim there. But I have a 27.729 cubic yards that came out of this point right here from my rim at the top. Gives you a lot of other area information too, 507 on the area, base perimeter, measured boundary. So there you go. You can go ahead and close out of this at any point. Let me show you. If you close out, not as all lost. You don't have to actually save that if you don't want. At any point, you can go back and run that report again. So if you had closed this work order and then needed to start it back up later on, you can go back and review it. So there again, I'm going to go ahead and run it the exact same way. One more thing I'm going to show you, though, is the little folder here at the top right, which is on the newer versions of Siteworks. Looks like a clipboard almost. If you take that and hit that, you can go ahead and put in here a report title. You can call it a depression. The report titles was a dugout, a soft spot, whatever you want to put in there, and then you can add up to 3 photos right here. So if you hit the photo right there, you can take your data collector off and take up to 3 different photos if you needed to. I like to just take mine off and then come back here, take the shot, go ahead and took it, record it. Maybe if I want to add another one, it's honestly just the way to keep a picture of this and your stockpile measurement together. We'll go ahead and hit record, and we're good. So we'll go ahead and save that, and I actually have a report now that goes along with this depression. So a PDF report was saved to your work orders output folder. So there we go. We're good to go. Done. Now I know exactly how much it is. I can report that to someone. If we had to fill it back in, you can always prove to your DOT or whoever you're working for that it was dug out. So anyways, hopefully this is helpful. Thank you for watching this video from Site Tech Intermountain on measuring a depression in the ground.